Hey, this is Jack Jokinen, and you're listening to Verbal Shenanigans.
But our shenanigans are cheeky and fun.
Yeah, I mean, his shenanigans are cruel and tragic.
Which makes them not shenanigans at all, really. Evil shenanigans.
I swear to God, I'll pistol whip the next guy that says shenanigans.
Hello, everybody. I know it's been a few weeks since you heard our sultry companionship of a podcast, but we are back. I apologize. I just, things got away from us the last couple weeks, but we promise to be better. We promise to be a reliable friend, a reliable source of entertainment, someone to get you through your depression and the dark winter days that are coming ahead. Until the next week when we tell you that something else came up and we miss a few weeks, and but we're here, Mike. Hello.
Yeah. I kind of prefer just being the boring, unentertaining person that tells you to shoot yourself, Scott. I hope you don't mind. That was my plan for tonight.
To shoot myself.
Yeah. Well, not you, but like the listeners in general. I mean, Groovy Joan kind of told us off, and she didn't even know there was one episode out, and she thought we were gone for a month. So
yeah, I know. So what you're telling us, all the listeners right now, you're telling all the listeners to go shoot themselves.
Yeah, because it's not big enough. So I'm not even sure our audience would count as mass murder if they all did that. So I'd be in the clear. I wouldn't have to worry about that big of a lawyer, but. You know what? Since you're not telling your friends and your family to listen, I'm going to go for a new group of listeners. I got to be honest with you.
So I think at several points during this show, like in our anything to promote segment, you've promoted the suicide hotline if people are feeling terrible. Now you're switching gears and encouraging people to shoot themselves.
Yeah.
What a start after 3 weeks away.
I'm going to promote 1-800-BAD-GIRLS, where they'll be like, I'm a sexy girl and you can never have. What are you going to do about it? And just wait for the click.
I imagine some of the women from 1-800-BAD-GIRLS have also shot themselves since maybe not finding anything after that.
I mean, that'd be kind of sad and all if it's like a pre-recorded and it's like, wow, this girl's sexy. And it's like, she's been dead for about 2 decades right now. I got to be honest with you, gentlemen.
She's still our main menu, but now, speaking of phones, okay? We recorded an interview that's coming out, I believe, next week will be the interview. So sometimes we bank these. Now, a couple weeks ago, you had told the audience, the one that you are encouraging to kill themselves. And by the way, I love the audience. I love everyone. Maybe not Dom, but I love everybody else. You don't. It's just Mike. I would like to make that clear. If anybody does shoot themselves, please make sure Mike is in the suicide letter.
You know what, Scott? You got a valid point. Let's change it from the entire audience to Dom. But continue with your story.
So a couple weeks ago, you had told us that you have a superpower or the power to change phone
caller ID of your phone. So let's clarify. I didn't declare at that moment I had a superpower.
Right.
It was you ragging on me, like saying, what kind of talent is that? What kind of superpower is that to declare to everybody that you can change a caller ID when you call out to somebody?
I don't recall this. I think the way I hear it was you were saying I have a superpower and you're not believing me that this power is mighty, if you will.
Yeah. For those who don't know, I did it in order to confirm that one of our people who are supposed to be our guests, the youngest man on the moon,
what do you
blocked
mean?
my number.
What do you mean? He was on the cast. He was on the cast.
That is true. Yes, we had a double guest that week. It might have been supposed to be a fuller interview with him, but
what do you mean? He told us about his grandson's baseball game he had to go to, and it was a really good interview. Charlie Duke.
Yeah. So how I found out, it appeared he blocked me. My phone number was, I called him with my with another phone where I changed the caller ID and it confirmed because it rang through and he picked up.
Mm-hmm.
Hence our great interview and our great counter offer for another interview of needing to give him $1,000 to speak with.
And they did a great. So I didn't think much of Mike's said superpower. I was like, okay, whatever.
Chugged on Superman's cape.
It sounded like some boring IT talk that really had no
bearing on
no
your
withstanding.
life.
Yeah. So we go to do this interview, and I guess I'll tell the story of the interview. So we go to do this interview with a musician. Okay. And we're doing it by phone. We usually don't do phone. Back in the day, we did only phone. That was like before the Skype and Zoom days.
That's a very boring website, by the way. OnlyPhones, it's not doing as well as OnlyFans. I gotta be honest. The volume of traffic is not going through what they expected.
So a lot of times when we do phone interviews, Mike will set up like a conference line where we all call into like one number or whatever. He sets up the phone stuff a lot of the time. And I'm sitting here trying to get ready for the interview. And he's like, yeah, I'll call you or I'll call you from the number or whatever it is. And then we'll just merge the calls.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sitting down getting ready for the interview. And Mike's not in the Zoom room where we usually see each other or we communicate oh, I have a question for this guy or, you could wrap it here, stuff like that. It's a little peek behind the curtains, guys. Very exciting, I know. And I keep looking at my phone and my wife is calling me. Now I'm like, why would my wife be calling me? She's upstairs. She's literally upstairs with the kids. I just went downstairs and I'm ignoring it. I'm like, I got an interview to do. Okay. And, it says Alexandra's calling. It's 3 times. And I hung up. I think one time I picked up and I heard hello. And I was like, what is going on here? I thinking my phone is messing up. And then my wife is calling me. And then finally all of a sudden the phone rings from a Georgia number. It's a Georgia area code. And I'm like, oh, this is Mike. So I pick up the phone and I go, hey, baby, or something stupid like that. And it turns out our guest is also from Georgia. And he answers hello, hello. So there I am already embarrassed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I'm like, hold on, Dean. I'm trying to patch in my co-host. I'm waiting for him to call. All of a sudden I look down. My wife is calling again. And I'm like, what the hell is going now I'm thinking there's an emergency upstairs. So I answer, I'm like, hello. And then I hear a familiar voice on the other side. You're like, hello. Oh, I'm like, Mike? And you're like, yeah, I'm ready for the interview. And I'm like, dude, you're calling it's saying my wife's phone. You're like, oh yeah, I know. So
yeah. Well, first you declared that there's something wrong with my phone because you came in as my wife, and I'm like, yeah, I know.
So there I am just ghosting Mike and pretty much telling the guest, yeah, I got to call you back because somehow
baby, I got to call you back.
I wouldn't be surprised if I called him back and he's like, I'm not doing that thing. And, he's a member of a pretty well-known band, which you guys will see next week. But so you're I thought you could change the ID to a custom number, an unused phone number or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I did not know you had this superpower to change a phone number to an existing phone number.
Any number. Yes, that is correct. It's probably... See, as people kind of wonder, how can we not stop these scam calls, the spam calls, all that stuff? See, phone systems can change the number to whatever they want, and there's no real way of tracking it. Ergo, even though it's probably not the most technical, legal thing on the planet, there's no way really to stop it in that scenario. So I just decided, the funny thing was, on that day, I literally zoned out and I forgot it was the day of our interview.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
The plan was call you a little bit earlier and kind of get the see what I can do. but it was like so late when I realized, oh God, I got to call him. I didn't have time to change it back to a regular number, so I had to keep calling him as his wife.
Yeah. So I am like going into the interview completely like, what the hell is going on here? Like, I really don't understand. And like, I even like, it took me like 3 or 4 minutes to like get in the interview mode with the guy because I was like completely scrambled. And I'm like, I called this guy baby. My co-host is calling me from my wife's number. The tech issue, like my sound wasn't super great. I actually had to fidget with the sound on the interview afterward. I guess this could qualify as a sadistic power. However, I don't see it as a superpower. I see it more as a villain angle. Like, this is not a power you would use for good.
Maybe I should contact Kevin Feige and be like, now, has Robert Downey Jr. signed that contract yet? Because hear me out. Like, just imagine, like, Bruce Banner is like, oh, it's Scarlet Witch calling. I thought she was dead. And like, hello, ha, she's dead. You will never see her again. And he gets so insane, he turns into Hulk and just, like, destroys the Avengers campus and all that stuff. And I'll think of all the stuff I can do. Like, I can call, like Mary Jane and be like, oh, Spider-Man. It's like, psych, you all forgot about him. Remember the end of that movie? Ha ha.
So instead of
play around the whole Marvel universe.
Instead of the multiverse, it's just you calling multiple people from multiple numbers.
Yeah, it's multi-call. It's like, we don't know how to stop it. We called the cops and they're like, we can't trace the call. It's terrible.
So are you saying right now, you could legitimately like start a scam phone call thing like pretty quickly? I
mean, I could.
You possess the power.
I had to possess the power to change
in your origin story.
Yeah, I could change my number to whatever I want and call people and like really do some things. Yes, if I knew your insurance company's toll-free number, I can change my caller ID to that and call you and be like, hey, there's something up. Can you just give me your credit card number and we'll take care of this?
You realize, like, in your origin story, you're like using this thing for good, but you're also tempted by, the ability. And something happens, like you have a terrible day, or your wife like dumps you, divorces you, and you just go down that path and become the supervillain that you become.
And I try to call my wife to get her out of it, but she doesn't recognize the number, so she refuses to pick up.
She's just like, fate. Why is Scott's wife calling me over and over again?
Yeah. I don't want to talk to Scott's wife. I'm leaving my husband. No! Curse you, Ant-Man!
Yeah. So that was like, I guess it's a power that you need to be, with great power comes great responsibility. So,
I know. I mean, I tried not to bring it out, but you poked the bear.
I did.
You're literally like, oh, this is nothing. I feel no kind of way with your superpowers. And I'm just like, let me show you something. I just cranked it down. My gamma rays got spurted onto you.
I did underestimate you. And I also am a little jealous that I don't have an equal superpower anywhere near as cool as that.
I mean, I'm sorry, man. I mean, only certain people. I mean, this is the Marvel universe. You have your heroes and villains, and you have the regular people like Scott. So
no, I'm just one of the civilians that got blipped or whatever the hell they called it.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah. So that was that. Mike, we are. It is approaching. It's approaching fall. I don't know down there in Georgia, but the weather here has been like cool and like beautiful and not humid. It's been like the fall is in the area, which means football is right around the corner. As we are recording this, football is 2 days away.
I mean that small league, the NFL, not the UFL that we love and cherish and we talked about earlier this year.
Yeah. The other league that you watch occasionally. Now, what's always surprised me is, you're a football guy. You know the game pretty well. You know the teams pretty well. That you've never really dabbled in the fantasy realm before, in the fantasy football realm.
I did it like 1 year, and it it never caught my interest. I mean, I just love watching the game. I really don't like to dive into the whole, well, this guy will get this amount. And like, there's so many like turnoffs to the point of like somebody has a running back that only has like 12, let's say like 12 points, but they're either getting killed or they're up by like a million. So they keep handing off, and this person's going to get a mega score, even though it's like, well, the running back really didn't do anything. It just never something I gravitated to. Like, even like betting, I'm a kind of guy, I'm like straight up bet. And if you and me are betting Commanders versus Giants, it's like whoever wins is the winner of the bet. I don't play that whole, I'm going to give you 6.5 points stuff and whatever.
In that scenario, generally no one wins when it's Giants Commanders. So.
Yeah, it's generally when we're like, I lost the game. I got a better draft pick in your face.
Yeah. So I've been playing fantasy for, I don't know, I think in high school was the first year I started. And I was into it. But as I become a much more mature, older adult, I've actually gotten more into it. Because I think it's because, like when I was younger, I would go out all the time and go watch football out, or it wasn't the main thing. Now that I'm older and I have kids and the fall is my busiest time of year, like Sunday has become this like sacred thing where I'm like, please, let's not try to plan anything on Sundays. And it just like enhances the game. And also 5 years ago, this is year 5, I started a league of couples. So it's all, there has to be a couple in the league. Now each person has their own team. So if it was you would have your team and your wife would have a team, but it's 6 couples. And I've tried to make the draft like an event. Like every year I try to make it sillier, a little bit bigger. Everybody brings food. And how we determine draft order is always different. I try to come up with a different idea. Okay. If I was to present it to you that way, would there be any interest? Like, say I needed a new couple. Am I getting your gears moving at all?
I would say somewhat, but the caveat is with it being couples and with my wife, there will be zero scenario where she will put anything into it. She will probably look for any player that has a somewhat Disney name or something like that and pick them, Yeah. It's like Gaston Costello, the third string quarterback for the Eagles. I'm going to pick him.
Who's this Mickey Mahomes? Okay, so let me try to sell it to you more as if I was trying to recruit you here. Okay. Now, what if I told you out of the 4 years in existence, 2 women have won the league and 2 men? So this might be a selling point if I was recruiting your wife. Like, the two of the women that won had never played fantasy football before. In fact, one is my German neighbor who never really even cared about football nor watched football, and she won the first year and has now become slightly obsessed with it. So much so that like last year she was over in Germany and I happened to be up at like 1:00 at night on Instagram. She was like messaging me about who she should start or who do you think I should start. So it's really like the women, like a lot of people will be like, oh, the couple, the women have become just as involved and which makes the league really fun because it's always a fun week when you're playing your spouse. It makes it really interesting in the house. Many times I have lost to my wife. And, we've bet like who's cooking dinner that night. We do little things in the house. So it starts to build a little camaraderie, right? Everyone brings food. The couples are there. Okay. People who have kids, they're allowed to bring their kids over. I blew up a bounce house for the kids to play. And so let me tell you what I've done for draft picks in the past. Okay. The first year was COVID. It was just, whatever ESPN or Yahoo just picked randomly. But so the second year, I got balloons and I put numbers in the balloons randomly, and you had to throw a dart at the balloon and when you popped it, that's what you the number you got was where you would pick. 1 year I did beer pong cups, and on the bottom of the cup was a number. Last year, I did draft pizza. And this is how neurotic I am. I called the pizzeria and I asked, can you give me a pizza and cut it into 12 slices? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then to make sure, as the commissioner of the league, that no one thinks I knew where like the 1 pick was or the 2 pick was, I brought the pizza to my brother's house. I said, look, I need you to take this pizza off and number it randomly and then put the pizza back on so that no one knows. So that if I go, oh, I'll take this slice and it's the 1, people are like, okay, this is rigged.
Yeah, knowing my brother, there will be no scenario where he's going to assist me in that. He's going to be like, yeah, whatever, and probably eat the pizza.
Well, it was cool because you got a slice of pizza and you got your draft pick. So it had like a double. Mm-hmm. So that was cool. So this year I had to top it. Okay. This year I had to top the idea. I've been slightly addicted to, it's called Buy Nothing. I'm sure there's one in your town. Buy Nothing, I don't know, Douglasville, whatever. I'm sure if you look it up, it's a Facebook group, and it's people who just put stuff up for free that they're getting rid of.
Okay.
So in the past couple of weeks, I got a tool that I needed. I got a little castle for my son. I got some picture frames that were brand new. Something else. And the other day I was like, oh, my son's really into monster trucks, and someone put up a remote control gravedigger, and it looked like a pretty big one. And I was like, oh, okay. Like he has a tiny little one. It's free. I'll go get it.
Yeah.
I go to get it, and it is like the full size. Like this thing's like 3 feet long, and it's awesome. It rips, man. Like it flies. I'm like, okay. So I had other ideas for the draft. I'm like, this is what we're going to do. Because I had this idea with the smaller monster trucks. I'm like, now I got this beast. So I set up a course in my backyard with cones where we were going to do time trials. So you had to race Gravedigger around, and whoever gets the least amount of time, you were able to choose whatever pick you want, and so on and so on. So it was kind of cool because it went down the hill, and if I made the rule, if you like ran Gravedigger into a fence or something and you got stuck, you had to sprint down the hill and turn Gravedigger, but you had to leave the remote control back at the starting line. So
I saw this video.
Yeah, it started with a couple of my friends sprinting down a hill. My one neighbor, the German neighbor, she's pregnant. She had to sprint down the hill. And then the Gravedigger started to lose some battery power, so he just put someone down the hill for the last couple of people, and he kind of helped them, which there's a little controversy there. But all in all, I called Gravedigger. I covered him up and put Draft Picker on him. That was his name. And all in all, it was like hilarious watching people try to operate this really fast monster truck. There's kids running around. My son, I probably would have had the 1 pick. My son ran and like caught Gravedigger in the middle of it. We're like, well, you got to play it as it lies, people running at the fences, a lot of people laughing at each other. Really good time. And I have to say it's my best draft pick to date for career.
Oh my.
So, have I sold you at all? Like, would that be something that would interest you?
I mean,
the camaraderie of it all.
I would, and all. It's all about the special trip to come up for said events. That might be a question mark. I mean, I'm not sure. It'll be like, oh, I got a remote control car out here, and I'll just take my word. Oh, yeah, damn, man!
8 seconds.
Jeff Gordon out there. My Lord, the turning circumference, my Lord.
So we also have a trophy. Okay, now it's not a trophy. We, my buddy Dave had an old paddle, like a canoe paddle. That's probably about 3 feet long, like a small one. So we're like, let's make that the trophy. So if you win the league, your name goes on the head of the trophy, like the paddle part. If you lose, my friend Dave also made a big wooden testicles that goes on the bottom. So picture a paddle with big testicles hanging from the bottom of it. So it looks a little phallic, if you will. And then if you lose, you go on the nuts for eternity. So,
ooh, interesting. I saw one on the internet today, and I almost think it's cool what they did. The loser of the fantasy football, they had to go to a minor league team and try out for the team.
That's fantastic.
Well, I'm kind of like, that'd be kind of cool. I wouldn't care if I went like 0 for 20 and all. It's a minor league team. They wouldn't care.
We should play. We should do a Verbal Shenanigans fantasy football league where it's just 2 teams, just me versus you every week, and see who wins. But you know how good our teams would be? You would have picks of every player in the league.
Yeah.
I don't even know if you can.
Maybe we can cut it up. Like you get 4 teams, I get 4 teams, and just the grand total record determines it all.
We could explore that for sure. But yeah, the fantasy thing now has become like such like, and we own this league. I'm in 3 leagues. I found that as like the sweet spot. After that, I'm just rooting for everyone, and it gets annoying, and I forget who's on my teams. Other ones are more money. This one seems to be the one I care about the most. We only do $50, but it's more about the bragging rights and the trash talk in the group chat all year long. You know, like, so it's become quite a thing, and I think everyone involved is really enjoying it too.
Yeah, it's the close netness of the entire group, and just the ability to just say you suck.
Yeah,
just some random reason, just because the punter of the Ravens screwed up last week.
Yeah. So yeah, maybe we'll come up with a little shenanigans fantasy showdown, if you will. But before we get to our guest, I mean, we are on the topic of football. We are on the topic of football. Every year, we tend to throw in a little prediction. It's actually perfect because football starts in 2 days. This episode will probably be up tomorrow as we're recording it. Mike, we always do some predictions here. So let's get into it. I want you to tell me who you got going to the AFC Championship, who you got going to the NFC, and then who is going to make it to the Super Bowl. Why don't we let's start both in the AFC, since that's where the trophy lies right now.
Yeah. I mean, it's very popular to go with the hot hand with Kansas City.
Sure.
But I think we're at a point now, like Kelsey is more and more doing the podcast, going out to see his girlfriend in concerts, doing all the SNL stuff and whatever. Mahomes is doing 100 different things, and in the meantime, they still got holes in certain places, whatever. I think they get shot down in the divisional round, Kansas City, this year.
Yep.
I think it is going to be the Baltimore Ravens facing the New York Jets.
Wow. So you got faith in the Jets, huh?
I think that they got a great defense, and I think Rodgers can get them so far where they got a good wide receiver. They seem to have things in line. They fixed the offensive line thing. Obviously, it's all with health. But I feel they're going to be a wild card team, but still get that like sweet matchups up to the finals, if you will.
All right. So don't tell me who you got going to the Super Bowl yet. Now, as the guy who lives in New York and also grew up as a Met fan and a guy who knows what happens to the Nets, the Jets, and the Mets, I just see this imploding somehow. Them being like 8-8 and everybody ripping Rodgers to shreds because people can't stand him already. I just see, and I don't believe in the coach over there. So while I could see a scenario, because they are loaded with talent, I could definitely see a scenario. I do not have the Jets going to the finals this year. I also do not have the Chiefs going into the AFC finals. I have the Chiefs getting picked off by the Houston Texans, who were red hot last year. Really fun team to root for. And Mike, I also have them playing the Baltimore Ravens in the final. So I have Texans Ravens on one side. Okay,
all right,
and you got Jets Ravens on the same side. Okay, let's go over to the NFC before we get to Super. I'll start here. I'll start this one.
Okay.
I think there's a team that's been the steady hand. I think they've gotten to the Super Bowl a couple of times. They haven't won it. I think we are going to see another great year from San Francisco. I see them being right there. However, I see them playing against America's sweethearts that everybody would like to see there. I see the Detroit Lions getting to the NFC finals there. So I got Niners, Lions. I know it's kind of a chalky pick, but I just think they're the class of the NFC at this point.
Yeah, I see no issues with that. That was kind of my thought process with it. I think the East, the two teams that are top are basically frauds, and they'll find a way to get in, but still stumble over themselves.
Yeah, I don't believe
Trying to go any further. Atlanta is going to have a sweet record. I can see Atlanta as like a 1 seed considering how crappy their division is and all that, but second Kirk Cousins sees moonlight, he's going to just shrivel up and get killed. So I, too, will see San Francisco and Detroit in the NFC Championship game.
All right, let's stay in the NFC. Who you got going to the Super Bowl?
It's a hell of a matchup, but I think, in my opinion, I love the coach of Detroit. I think he learned his lessons about, you keep the foot on the pedal, but I think he's going to learn, okay, in certain positions, taper it down a little bit. Don't get too silly on the crazy calls and whatever. I see them taking care of business this time. They should have done it last year. They'll do it this year. Detroit actually finds their way into the Super Bowl.
Mike, we are aligned on this, if you will. I like the Lions. I always like a team in their second year of being like hot, like getting far, and then that second year facing them in the playoffs. I think they get it done. I think the Niners, it's going to take some amazing mentality to be that great again and get to the Super Bowl and be, teams slip eventually. Like they've just been fantastic other than the big game. But I also have Detroit squeaking it out and getting to the Super Bowl. Okay. Over to the AFC. I'll start here. I have the Ravens, Texans. And the Ravens are just the class organization. Like they're always good. They're just like the Steelers. They're never completely terrible. Even in their bad years, they're kind of floating around 500, and they're always a threat. They're good defense. Picked up Derrick Henry this year. I think he might be a monster on that team if they could keep him healthy. However, I think it's going to be a weird year. I think we're going to get a very strange Super Bowl that I don't know who wants to see it other than Detroit. But I think the Houston Texans are going to be red hot this year. The second-year quarterback, stranger things have happened. I have the Houston Texans versus the Detroit Lions in the Super Bowl.
Very nice. Very nice. I can see that. It's definitely a bold prediction right there. Not as bold as the Washington football team in the Super Bowl.
I was going to say, if you threw Washington out there, I would just end this call right now. That's like me.
But then I would just call back as your wife. So,
what do you want? So, who you got?
Well, like I said, I could totally see with the Jets' defense, the perimeters that they have to get them to the championship game. And then I think they'll finally realize, wait a minute, we're the Jets. In fact, I can kind of see a similar situation as Detroit. I can see Rodgers out there, couple nice bombs, go up by 14 on Baltimore. Baltimore's a little bit struggling, relying on the running game, slowly picking up. And then I just see Aaron Rodgers being hero Aaron Rodgers and start chucking it up there saying, oh, my guys will catch or whatever. I could totally see them picking up third-string Green Bay Packer wide receivers that he liked 12 years ago and put them on the team after injuries. So I'm saying Baltimore is facing Detroit in probably the scariest city Super Bowl in the history of Super Bowls.
Yeah. Thank God it's on a neutral site, right?
Yeah.
I don't even know where it is this year. Vegas, maybe? Something. I don't know. I don't remember. But
I don't know.
I know it was going to Vegas at some point, or was it? No.
I think last year it was Vegas. Yeah. Yeah, because the whole thing was the Chiefs celebrating on the Raiders field.
Gotcha. All right. So you got Ravens, Lions. I got Texans, Lions. Mike, go ahead. Who's winning the Super Bowl?
I think we got two quarterbacks that people really kind of shun on for different reasons. They keep on saying Lamar can't get him to the big game or get him over the hump. But I think there's a quarterback out there that has a bigger chip on his shoulder with Jared Goff.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he got the Rams to the Super Bowl. He could have got the Lions there last year. He got traded to the Lions, them literally saying, yeah, we'll hold you for 1 year until we draft our quarterback of the future. And he just said, hold my beer and do it. I like the charisma of the team. I love the coach. I think they're going to finally end this sad drought that Detroit fans have been sitting back waiting for since like the Red Wings and the Pistons. I think they slap Baltimore in their face and squeak out a victory and win their first Super Bowl.
Mike, maybe for the first time ever, possibly, that we've done this, I agree with you. I have the Lions meeting the Texans. I think the Texans become very interesting for people rooting for them. I think they flame out a little bit being the young team in the Super Bowl with the pressure. I think the Lions are ready. They're coached well. They have all the pieces. And I think the Lions take care of the Texans pretty handily in kind of like a 31-14 kind of game. And the Lions win it. And the whole second half, people are just Lions fans tweeting like, oh my God, how are we going to blow this? Blah, 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 blah. You know it's coming. And Jared Goff gets them to the Super Bowl, wins the Super Bowl, becomes becomes one of those guys. All of a sudden you're like, oh, this guy, this guy's for real. And then you talk about getting the Super Bowls, and all of a sudden the Hall of Fame talk starts, kind of not exactly like Eli, but there was a lot of knocks on Eli. He wasn't the greatest regular season player, but he was clutch, and he won when it came down to it. He won 2 Super Bowls, and it's hard to keep him out of there. So in a similar vein, all of a sudden people start talking about, all right, Jared Goff's been in 2 Super Bowls. He won it, with the Lions. Maybe he gets on that ballot somewhere. So I get the Lions taking the Super Bowl also this year. So
yeah, there'll be a big celebration. The city of Detroit will be on fire, and then somebody would go, oh, by the way, we won the Super Bowl. Kind of one of them things right there. So
yep. Real quick, go ahead.
I was about to say, any bold predictions other than what we did?
I was just going to say, I was just going to ask you a team that we're kind of forgetting about that you think will be hot. I think the Cincinnati Bengals will be fantastic again. I think they had a down year, Burrow getting injured. It also depends if Jamar Chase actually shows up to camp or shows up to play. But I could see the Bengals making a bunch of noise. And I could see the Cowboys returning back down to earth. Maybe that's just the giant fan of me wanting that to happen, but I never buy the hype with that team. I know they're good on both sides of the ball. They're good on the lines, but I don't know. Something about them, something about Dak doesn't do it for me. So
I can see my bold prediction is I think the Rams are going to be scary again. I almost thought about putting them in the championship game. I think they're so good at drafting. It's so unreal. They didn't have a first round pick for 10 years, and they still had awesome teams. Yep. I could totally see them. I could see them even win the division over the 49ers to smack their face, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think if Kupp returns to being Kupp along with Puka, it's a pretty deadly offense. So
yeah, hitting the ground face forward. I could see Buffalo stumbling a little bit. I think I'm going to say they're still going to win the East, but it's going to be one of those. It's like 3 weeks ago, they're like, oh, are we even going to the playoffs kind of things or whatever. They just never seem to come together.
Yeah.
And I still think as much as I like Allen, I don't think he's one of those give me the ball, we're taking over this game kind of guy. So
they've also I don't know who he's throwing to. He's going to be throwing to Dalton Kincaid and a bunch of young, unproven guys. They're a team that's been there now for quite a while. Like eventually, it usually flames out a little bit. I could totally see that scenario too. But enough with our sports talk. That is our predictions here with football coming. That's pretty much about the extent of sports talk we do, unless we're our.
One other thing I'm going to say, I think Brady's going to suck in the booth. There's something about like his demeanor or whatever. I'm like, I think he's going to be too like held back as he always kind of is with his personality. And I really think it's going to be a struggle up there, but
is Brady done? Does he show up on the field somewhere?
I mean, if he's going to get ownership of the Raiders, he's not allowed to.
Yeah.
But I mean, he basically went back to football to not pay certain money in a divorce, so that doesn't mean much to me. Like, well, the rules say this, but whatever.
Minnesota needs a QB. Anyway, Mike, let's shift over to our guest. Who we got tonight?
Tonight we are talking with Jack Jokinen. He is the author of the book A Stray Dog for Christmas. Now, some of you may have remembered a video, the viral story of the dog Susie, a stray dog who one night walked into an open apartment door to rest and ended up becoming a worldwide sensation. Well, that apartment was Jack's apartment in Philadelphia. So let's relive that story and hear about this book and him recall what everything is like and what we can expect from A Stray Dog for Christmas.
Let's get Jack on the line.
How's it going, fellas?
Hey, Jack.
Jack, what's going on, man? How are you?
Good, man. Thanks for having me.
Let's just dive right into it. Yeah. Let's go back to the day of what gave us this Christmas story. Give us an idea of like where you were in life before Susie came into your life and how busy were you? What was your family story? And what kind of set it up?
Yeah. So Susie happened. I always just say Susie happened. I don't know like how else to describe it. December 14th, 2019. So my life at that point, I had my first kid November 14th. So I have a 1-month-old daughter. I just wrapped up making baseball content about like the Yankees, and I had a web series that I did called Stadium Meets, where it kind of like diners, drive-ins, and dives, but like the craziest thing at baseball stadiums. I'm a big Yankee fan, so I'm up at Yankee Stadium for all the playoffs, just like drink. I went from like pounding beers at baseball games to like a dad to like now you're on the news like saving dogs. It's a little bit, it feels a little bit like if you guys have seen the movie The Internship with Vince Vaughn and Owen Wilson. Yeah, where they ask him about what would you do if you shrunk down to a nickel size and you're in a blender. And that is like, and they're like, now we're changing lives. That's pretty much what happened. I went from just like drinking beers to dad to children's author. Life comes at you fast.
Yeah, and if you're drinking beers at Yankee Stadium, you're putting down a big buck, like to have a couple beers. Yeah, you're
about. I hope Portnoy gave you a pretty decent check if that's the case.
You're about $100 for 6 beers over there. So,
oh yeah, no, definitely now. I mean, but you can get wine, you can get mixed drinks. Very bougie.
I know. Not a fan of the new stadium. I gotta say, it just doesn't. I'm a Met fan. I like Citi Field. I hate getting to Citi Field, but Yankee Stadium never really. It doesn't grab me when I get in there.
So this stadium's nicer. Like it's nicer. The suites are better.
Yeah.
I used to be the Yankee guy for Barstool. So like I've been in every suite because like, you know, at the time that Barstool's coming up, you just by being anybody, you get that. So I've had that whole experience. I grew up in the Bronx going to the stadium.
Sure.
And went to high school 5 train stops away, back before StubHub, where scalpers were just out there on a corner. One of my friend's dad was a cop at the stadium, so he would just walk up to a scalper and be like, "Are you scalping these?" Yoink, and just give them to us. Yeah. And we'd go into games like that. So like grew up at Yankee Stadium. New stadium's nicer. Here's what they missed with designing it. at the old stadium, and because I brought a ton of people to their first game at both stadiums, you would go in and it was like you were in the subway when you first got into the stadium. And then after like you took the train, you're in the South Bronx. There's a bowling alley across the street. Now you're like kind of in this dungeon on the stadium, but then all of a sudden you go through a tunnel and it's like the greenest grass you've ever seen. And it's this beautiful thing you've only seen on TV, you've only seen in movies. And my problem is like once you like swipe your ticket on like your phone, you can see the field now from pretty much everywhere you go. So there isn't that moment. And I think that's something the stadium is missing.
It's a good point because when I go to Yankee Stadium, I feel like, okay, I got to get through the mall first before I get to the baseball stadium. I got to get through the stores and the shops and the restaurants and the beer stands. And then, oh yeah, there's baseball here too. You know, like, it's like a, and like I don't hate it. I don't hate it, but I definitely don't find it like I'm a Giants fan. I think MetLife is probably the worst new quote unquote stadium in all of football, maybe a lot of sports. You don't know who plays there. You walk in, it looks like a gray dehumidifier, basically the stadium. There's no, it's got 4 entrances, make 2 of them Jets, 2 of them Giants, everything, put a Hall of Fame there, there's just nothing. It's like if you were in Madden mode and you had to create a stadium, you would start with just the blank canvas of Giant Stadium. Like, so like
the development never came. Like you would think stuff would come up around it. Yeah. And it's just like, kind of the opposite. Like Citi Field is there, and now they're starting to like take over and get rid of like the tire shops and like the Korean grocery stores.
Yep.
So they could have like maybe a bar out there. But yeah, it is as if like build a stadium, and then it never picked up. And business never came.
Listen, like, and the Mets went through the Mets screw everything up. We know this. Like when they released the stadium and had black and orange walls when it opened up, I'm like, okay, well, the Giants, it was 5,000 feet. They hit a home run, but they've made a lot of adjustments. And the stadium, the one thing it always had was the cool like minor league feel to it in a way. But I remember like even the first time going there, I'm like, wow, we have a Jackie Robinson museum, but no Met stuff in the entrance. Yeah. And they fixed that. I feel like Yankee Stadium needs a little bit of that humble pie, bring it back down a little bit. It still feels like a grand, like a corporate-y kind of feel.
I mean, no, it definitely is. And I mean, you can even tell when there's a big game, whether it just be a playoff game or like a Friday night in July pennant race game against the Red Sox, like all the women are dressed up. Like everyone's bringing their best. Like it's a social event.
Yeah.
Guys, we get away with, the jersey. We're going to look the same regardless. But like the jeans are a little more fit. Like we've got the fresh Air Force Ones. It's Friday night. We're not just wearing a t-shirt to the game. We've got a form-fitting jersey. And that's what it is. It's kind of a nightclub where they play a little baseball.
I feel that. Like I have both sides of great stadium, bad stadium, because I'm a Phillies fan. So I grew up at the disgusting Vet. And just like AstroTurf and nothing special. And then they build Citizens Bank. And it's like, wow, this is kind of old school. It's new school and it's beautiful. But I'm also a Commanders fan where sewage is coming down on our fans and people are flying into Eagles.
That's the yin and yang of life.
Yeah. It's the most amazing thing. And they're stuck there for like another 6 years. But
do you live in the Philly area?
I came from Morrisville, Pennsylvania. I'm currently living down in Georgia now, but Philadelphia and everything, and somehow I became a Washington Commanders fan along the way. So it's Phillies, Sixers, Flyers, Commanders.
But everybody needs a team that's just complete trash. Like you just need I've been a Mets fan my whole life. I know what's going to happen with them. But then I had the Devils and Giants, and they kind of sprinkled success along the way, and it's been okay. You had your Phillies; they've gotten their championships, and everyone needs one.
Yeah. I mean, my favorite are Met Jets fans, though.
Oh,
Like those are the absolute best people. They've never felt any form of joy in
Never.
their lives.
never.
And it is, I mean, you could like see it in their eyes. Like everything like South Park says about gingers is like a Mets Jets fan. Like they are soulless.
And Scott's all three. Look
I
at
know.
that.
I'm almost all three. I just have the Giants. That's about it. That's about all I have. But yeah. But like even the Philly stadium, like I know Citi Field's kind of like it's similar to Citizens Bank, but they did it right. And like I like that feel. I still think Camden Yards is the best stadium I've ever been to. That and Fenway, but you know, it's okay. It's okay. So, Jack, back to your first off, like, how did you get involved with like Barstool back in the day? Were you just like a intern, or did you find them somehow? Did you know the guys, or
No, I grew up with KFC.
okay?
Like sat next to each other first day of kindergarten, knew each other like our entire lives. His cousin was like one of my best friends, and he died in 2009. And I run a charity in his name, a scholarship fund. So like when that happened, we had like got kind of closer again, just because like that, you know, that brings everyone back home. So we had like kind of reconnected there. I graduated from college. And I knew presenting and like talking would be my career. So like I'm a customer success manager at a tech company. I work for tech companies and I'm essentially a fixer. You know, I just find someone smarter than me with the answers. And I knew that that was going to be like some part of sales, something like that. And I didn't want to do Toastmasters. I was just like, I don't want to like do school again. So I started doing stand up. I just started doing stand up in Philly at Ravens Lounge or Raven Lounge, where like the Are You Garbage guys, like they always talk about the show they ran in Philly. It was that show.
No,
Okay.
So like they hosted the like first show I ever did. And so I just started doing stand up in Philly, going, you know, every open mic. I traveled for work consulting. So it's like I'm in Milwaukee on a Tuesday. I can watch SportsCenter for the third time, or I can like go see like, am I funny here? Because like I'm flown here for free. I want to go have a beer anyway. And so I would go on badslava.com where they had lists of open mics.
Is Bad Slava still active? I haven't heard that in 8 years. Now I got to check that out.
See, like now there's my street cred with you. You're like, oh, this guy's for real. He knows Bad Slava.
Well, while you're talking, I am going to look up Bad Slava.
Yeah, dude, let me know. We'll go do it. Let's go do a mic tonight. So I was doing that like just to get comfortable presenting. I like making people laugh. I like telling jokes. Was always a funny guy. I never wanted to like be a traveling stand-up comedian.
Right.
So even like Shane Gillis, his like partner that he makes his videos with. So he was on the shows that I was doing and like came to me at one point and was just like, yo, you're a funny guy. We're making some YouTube videos if you want to like do some stuff. Yeah. I'm not saying like, oh, I could have been Shane Gillis. I'm just saying like this guy was just like, hey, do you want to do it? I would have probably better connections. And I was like, no, YouTube, who would do that? Like it was 2010. And I was like, that's going nowhere. What a waste of time. And now like the biggest act in comedy. So I was doing that. I had moved back I had blogged a little bit. I had podcasted a little bit. I moved back to New York from Philly and Kevin needed a new Yankee guy. And he was just like, I need someone who's not going to look for a full-time job after you write like 3 blogs. And like, you're good with your career. Cause this was when they were all still remote.
Sure.
So it was like 2013. So I just came on as the Yankee guy and then Kevin started podcasts there. And I was just like, yeah, I'll get on any podcast, talk about whatever. So it was just like kind of opened up opportunities that I wasn't necessarily looking for. And then, you know, you get a little bit of a Twitter following and like some of those people are Pat McAfee and he's up doing College Game Day. So if you find a dog in your house at 4 a.m., he's awake and he's not seeing a lot of other tweets on the timeline. So once he retweets it, you're off to the races. You're on the Today Show.
Just an announcement, Bad Slava, still active, still has all the open mics. It seems pretty up to date too. It says like, what are money ones? What are
let's just find a Wednesday night bringer show, call up 5 of your friends, like hit the group text, like guys, I need 5 of you so I can do 3 minutes.
Isn't that the most reverse thing? Like, here, I'm a complete amateur at this. Bring all the people to come see me, and then they'll never come see me again. Like ever again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Hey, you know how you're really just putting yourself out there and like taking a risk, and it's probably like something you're insecure about? Bring the most important people in your life to that. Yeah. Make sure that they're there, because that's going to be the best for you, and they're your friends. They'll never bring it up again if it goes bad.
Jack, you really did good in front of the other comics and their friends that weren't paying attention, and we'll remember your set for the next 10 years, and then you say, I'm actually getting better, and then they'll never come again.
Good for you. Getting better. We appreciate it,
But ironically, as you were saying, like with the Shane Gillis thing, whatever. A couple years ago, I was hosting in New York, and Renan Hirschberg, who today literally dropped an episode with Joe Rogan, I butchered his name so bad hosting. I was like, coming up next to the stage, like Renan Hershey or something like that, and now he's on Rogan today. So, sorry, Renan.
Did they bring it up?
Hopefully not. I didn't listen to the episode yet, but I saw him today. I'm like, holy shit. Like, I introduced that guy and butchered his name, and I apologized to him for like 5 minutes after his set. But yeah.
It's so funny when you see people that like when you did that and they like really stuck with it, or like it popped for them, and like to see them be successful is wild. I'm tomorrow doing, are you familiar with Jared Freed?
Yeah, I met Jared Freed. Yeah.
So I'm doing Jared's show tomorrow. And the first time I met him, I was kind of just hopping around doing, mics in Philly and traveling for work. And someone invited me like, hey, if you're going to be in New York, like I host this show, come be on it. So I was like, sure. Like next time I was in New York, did it. And I'm waiting, and Jared was at Bro Bible, and he had gone to the AVN Awards and had like a YouTube video just like saying silly shit to porn stars. And he, all of a sudden, right before, like I know there's someone before me, then me. He shows up, he goes on, and I'm like starstruck because he's on YouTube. Like looking back at it, it's like, I could have made that video, I guess.
Sure.
And then a few years later, when I was doing the Barstool thing, we like reconnected, and I was like, yeah, I don't know if you remember this. And he was like, no, I do. Like because like I just ate shit because I got starstruck. So I just started saying the words of the jokes without making them jokes.
Yeah, I remember meeting him. I was doing Wisecrackers in Allentown, Pennsylvania, and he was like preparing for either filming in a half hour or an hour, whatever he was doing. And he like stopped in, and they were like, oh, you got to introduce him and stuff like that. He was a nice guy. He was a super nice guy.
Yeah, he's a really nice guy. He's one of those people like you see him get a Netflix special, and you're like, hey, good on you. I know you grinded it out.
Exactly.
So let's get back on track and all with the story. So for those who don't know the story, you let your dog out one night.
I walked my dog. I had one dog, walked my dog, winter storm, like starting to rain, snow-ish. So come in, I've got a raincoat and umbrella, wet dog, just trying to get all that off. Half asleep in life because I've got a 1-month-old. And also had just eaten a turkey dinner. Like I made a full Thanksgiving dinner in the middle of December for I don't even remember why. So nice, like just all that tired on me. And I closed the door and I heard the handle lock. Like we had an electric lock, but it didn't wedge. It just wedged itself. Like the thing that catches in the door jamb didn't. So we're up for another like couple hours, go to bed. 4 a.m. my wife's standing over me and she just goes, the baby's okay, but there's a dog in our house. And I was just like, yeah, George is right here at the foot of the bed. I'm like talking slow. I'm like, I read about postpartum. I'm a good husband. I've got this, babe. And she's like, no, there's another dog in our house. Go downstairs. There's a dog. And I'm just like, no way. Like, no way at all. And it was only because the baby spit out the pacifier for the first time and it like fell on the floor. So had to go get a new one. If we weren't like good sterile parents, we would have just had a surprise in the morning instead of the middle of the night. So I go and there's this small dog that, half asleep. I'm like, this is a puppy, right? I tell my wife, I go, someone got a puppy for Christmas and it got out and it's got a chip. And so we're just going to put it in the crate in our finished basement where George just 2 weeks ago earned not sleeping down there and being able to come upstairs. Everything's going to be fine. I tweet about it because I also think someone has broken into my house because the door's locked. It's closed. The windows are closed and locked. So I'm now the only person in Pennsylvania who doesn't own a gun. And I just get like a big knife and I'm just like searching closets, like swinging a knife into every closet door I open. There's no one there. So now I check security cameras and I see that at 3:16, she comes around the corner, sees the door open, goes up the steps, in, out, goes in. A person walks by, nothing. Another person, drunk guy, walks by. He puts down a bag of beers. He's like jumping to see in the house. Walks up, knocks, yells, pulls the door shut, doesn't see the dog. So that's how she got trapped there.
Oh, okay.
So I sent out the tweet in case, it's like as if my flight's going down. A homeless guy's about to kill me in my house. And McAfee tweets about it and Randy Scott tweets about it. Like McAfee's just like, sounds like you got 2 dogs now. So you don't go back to sleep after this happens, and you're really just Googling, like, what do you do if you find a dog in your house, which there's not a lot of answers. I should probably just like write that article and I would own the SEO of that.
Put up an ad on Bad Slava, just offshoot from it.
Yeah, just that's what we're talking about. Now I got to advertise this book on Bad Slava. If they have banner ads, I'm going to send them an email. I'm not even going to tell my publisher, like, this marketing is on me, guys. Bad Slava, but we're going to track the sales, none of them.
I'm looking at Bad Slava and it still looks like old school Craigslist, no ads. no. Oh, there is one banner ad. Never mind. You could have a market here.
There we go.
Yeah, you could.
Maybe you put the ad there, like, if you buy this book, it counts as one of your bringers to a show.
Yeah. Bring the book to any open mic.
It's also still the laughing.
Any open mic on Tuesdays.
It's also still the Laughing Buddha open mic that that has been there for probably the last 10, 15 years. I think I still had to get the newsletter.
Is it still $5? Is it still $5 or has inflation gotten it? Joe Biden upped the price of open mics.
Let's see. Laughing Buddha mic is still a paid mic. Let's see. $5.50 and one item minimum.
Oh, you gotta have 2 quarters. That's so inconvenient. They do that because everyone just gives them $6. Everyone gives them $6. Whoever's collecting it's making an extra 50 cents per person. So anyway, Google, no help at all when you find the dog. Animal control opens at 8:01, boom. Hey, how's it going? Found a dog in my house. What do we do? Let's solve this mystery. I've now also gone back and checked on the dog again, and it's not a puppy. This is an old dog that's very skinny. This is not a great situation. So, they go, you bring the dog in at 11, we'll take it from there. And I'm just like, you're going to kill this dog. Like, I can't just be like, here you go. I had you for a few hours. Like, can't go down that way. And the tweets are picking up. So people are like, hey, if you can't take that dog, I'll take it. I can foster it, whatever it may be. We call our vet. that we brought George to, who we didn't love. And they give us the Jesus. Like, there's no room at the inn for you. We can't see you. We've got no space. And they're around the corner from us. So we find a emergency vet across Philly by the art museum. We lived in Fishtown. Go across. They're like, yep, bring it in. Let's figure this out. And we're sitting there. She starts getting herself really attached to me. We go in, they do an exam. They take her. They come back and they're just like, well, there's no chip. And I was like, okay, so what happens now? And they're like, do you want us to chip her? And that's when I learned that dogs are finders keepers. I had no idea. They are finders keepers. And then they come back with a bill. I don't even look at it. I go, here's my Amex. Take it. I'll figure this out. I don't have a ton of dog experience. So I've had George for a little over a year at the time. So I'm like, what's this going to be? $500? Sure. I'll save a dog for $500. I was wrong. But as the day's going on, I'm providing updates throughout the morning at the vet. Get home about 11. I make a quick 2-minute, 20-second Maxi Ken on Twitter video, just like summarizing the morning because I had this thread going. And a bunch of people had said, if you're going to keep the dog, let me give you some money for the bill. You're going to have all these medical bills. So I say in the video, like, we don't need the money. Like, we'll figure it out. Cause in my mind, $500 on top of maybe the $600 I just spent. So I'm already over budget, but not flinching. And, I throw my Venmo like QR code up there. So $42,000 later, we've got a dog and a shit ton of money. And we're at the vet like the next day because her face is starting to swell. She has to have 19 teeth removed. So she has to go under. So she has a heart murmur. So we have to get an echocardiogram, infections on all 4 paws, fleas, ticks, like 19 pounds. She's probably like 37 now. And so like just really bad shape. So people start to see, so we're all, like on the news. I knew a guy from my time at Barstool who worked at Fox in Philly, like just kind of throwing up articles on their website. And I was just like, hey man, this thing's happening. If you could do anything with it. And he was like, yeah, cool. Can I use your tweets in article? I was like, yep. So he posts it. And then the floodgates just open. Then it's like, I get Fox reaches out of like, hey, can we come to your house? ABC reaches out, can we come to your house? They interview me at the same time. Now they can see I can talk on camera without like falling over. Good Day Philly. While we're on the couch on Good Day Philly, waiting for like them to go to us, they hold up the Daily News. She's on the cover of the Daily News. Inside Edition's coming to the house. We're exhausted. My wife's falling asleep, and I get a text message from someone, and I nudge my wife, and I'm just like, the Today Show posted about us on Instagram. And she's like, all right, I'm going to sleep. And I go, Jennifer Aniston liked it. And she's just like, Jennifer Aniston knows who I am. So, it just like took off over like that week, and people started and George had an Instagram that had like 15 followers, and they were just my wife's friends. And I was like, yeah, just make another one. Like, because if people are going to want to follow this story, spring training is going to start soon. And unless you really like the Yankees, you're going to hate this timeline. It's not a lot of dog. It's a lot of cursing about Aaron Boone. And so we start to get followers there in like the first 24 hours. And then someone reaches out and just says like, hey, it's a picture of a dog. And they go, I saw your story on the news, and I went and I adopted this dog. And I was just like, that's awesome. Can I post it? Yep. Next day, someone else. Next day, someone else. By about 6 months, we know Susie is going to be okay. We've gotten through like, a ton of medical bills. We see we have extra money. We're at like maybe 95 adoptions that we've inspired. So I'm like, hey, at 100, we have an announcement. Because I would do a post for each adoption. I would do like adoption alert with 2 like siren emojis and like the details of what they gave me. So at 100, I announce I'm giving away $10,000. But I'm not just like giving it to a charity to like cover their overhead or salary. Like, because if you give it, whoever I pick, someone's going to have an issue with. And I was just like, I don't want this goddamn headache, because you did like, there were people who like reach out to the Washington Post, and that reporter is like, hey, can I give them your email? And like, they just want to tell me I'm a piece of shit. Or, you do Inside Edition, they throw it on YouTube, and people are like, this guy broke this dog's leg. So to like set this up. And you do feel like kind of shitty, even though there's a lot of people telling you like, you're great.
Mm-hmm.
And so at 100 adoptions, I was like, I'm gonna give away $100 per adoption. I built a Google form on just like susanputman.com. Like, I bought the domain, threw it on there, and all you had to do was tell me like your little blurb, the name of the dog, where you got it, proof of adoption, like with the date. And if someone went through faking that, like faking an adoption invoice, they need the $100 way more than anyone else. So like, I didn't call a single one of these places to follow up. But there was an option. I was just like, I will PayPal you, Venmo you. I forget like maybe one other thing, but I was like, I'm not signing up for Cash App. I'm not signing up for like something else. These are what I'm doing. Do it. I'll give every Saturday morning. I'll go through. I'll give away money. And so we ended up doing 366 adoptions in 366 days. So we did a life a day for a year.
So let me ask you. I mean, all this is amazing. There's a lot of questions I have. Like, when you're going through this and like finding that there's like an influx of just attention and whatnot, what is your relationship like with the dog during that time? Like, are you still bonding with it? Like, still trying to figure out how she fits into the family? Like, are you in the vet pretty much every day? Like, because it sounds like you had a whole other outside life to deal with at the same time.
Yeah, I happened to be on like the tail end of like a paternity leave. So like, I was off that week. Otherwise it would have been like, I can't do like no Inside Edition. I have a client meeting,
Yeah.
Like the guy at Panasonic's really upset with me right now. So I would, she just attached herself to me. I guess it's like my wife tells me she grew up with dogs. I didn't. Like, she's like, you're alpha. Like, George right away followed me around. Susie followed me around. Susie's everywhere I go. Like, she's right over there on the floor, close to a door. In case I leave the room, she knows. And so it's just always been like that. And there was like that first really like couple of weeks, it was like, we have to pay close attention to what's going on, because she does have like health stuff going on. We have to apply these ointments a couple times a day to her paws. We did the flea and tick bath where, going through this, finding somewhere that can do an echocardiogram for a dog on like short time, because her face is swelling, because she needs to be put under, so that she can, have the teeth thing go on. So I am spending a lot of time kind of like just with her, like shuttling back and forth to the vet. Phil Adoptables is like a charitable organization that helps rescues in the Philly area. They reached out right away and were like, we know you have a dog, but you need like a whole other set of dog stuff. So they like the next day were like, here's all this stuff from PetSmart, Petco, somewhere where they had a partnership. And so like I brought Susie so like they could meet it, it helps their Facebook because it's story. And then like we're going to the news studios. So we were like together a lot, but also at the same time, really keeping a close eye, because like she's a street dog and we have a baby. So like there is the very real like, we're happy to have you here. We are happy to have, the platform to like make a difference and all this stuff and enjoy it. But at the same time, something goes bad with this baby, like we'll find you another home, but it won't be here. So, that was really like the first like couple of weeks. And then there was a lot of separation anxiety, that she'd have. We wouldn't, be apart much, because like my wife was home. I worked from home, aside from like when I would go to a couple meetings. And then I went back on paternity leave March 2nd of 2020. I had so many plans for 3 months and they weren't staying in the house all day eating ice cream cakes like it turned into being thanks to COVID. And so I went to like my in-laws in South Jersey while my wife was at work one day. So I was like, hey, do you guys want to see the baby? And I'll just like go to the Planet Fitness in your town. And we put her in the crate. And when I came back, I opened the door to the house and it was a smell like I had never smelled before. And I went downstairs and she had pissed and shit and busted a nail. So she is covered in her own blood and like freaking out. And I've got a baby that needs its diaper changed. I need to help her, need to like get to the vet. And it was just like, it was a ton. And there was also the decision, like I decided to post about it because like everything had been great. And I was like, I do want to show the like other side of this. It can be scary at times. But we got like, I don't know, to a certain extent, we got like really that and then like COVID. So I'm home all the time. Got us like really close.
Out of curiosity, when you get into popularity and everything, did anybody attempt the whole, oh, she was my dog the entire time, I'll take her back?
Yeah, so she took to commands like pretty quickly. And so like within the first 2 days. So we were like, she's been someone's dog. Now in classic Philly style, we're all over the news. The post office in Fishtown, the like postal officer, postal workers are talking, and they're like, "Hey, did you see like this story here in like the neighborhood?" And our mail lady is like, "Oh yeah, like I know them, like great couple, da da da." And through the post office, we found out that some people had seen her tied to a shopping cart with a homeless guy on Delaware Avenue. So we're like, okay, how did she end up there? I'm not doing a ton of like hunting this like lead down, but she ended up there. She probably had a family before. We couldn't tell. Like the vet said it didn't look like she had ever given birth, like because she hadn't like nursed. It looked like. So we're like, all right, she had a home. So we were very open to like, if this is your dog, just like tell us, like show, some kind of like proof. And because God forbid there's like some kids that were like, I don't know, 5 and 6. And 3 years ago, their dog ran away. And now 3 years later, they get that dog back. Like, we want to do that, and here's the money for her medical bill. So we're giving it all over. One thing that I'm only telling now as like we're doing the book thing is Susie was born with a deformed foot. And you know this if she's your dog. So if she was your dog, you would know this. But we never told anybody this. So we did have a couple of people reach out like, oh, I think that's my dog. Like, how do we do this? Like, just assuming like they've closed the deal and I'm about to just Venmo them 40 grand and drop a dog off at their house. But like no one could ever, they'd be like, here's a picture. It wasn't the same dog a lot of times, and I would like work with them. I'd be like, oh, here, like, here's what you sent me. Here's another picture. Like, that's not the same dog. But also, is there anything you could tell me about her that makes her different? And just, oh, sweet dog. It's like, well, that's not it.
Yeah.
So until like I did a thing with Talk Shop Live the other night was the first time I told it. So that's the second time I've ever said that. And we just never mentioned it in the article so that we knew like we weren't being taken advantage of, and we didn't want to end up in an ugly situation because like the week before this happened, there was a couple, not the week before, but like in the lead up to this, there was a couple in Philly who said like, oh, we ran out of gas and a homeless guy gave us his last $20 to get gas. So we raised $500,000 on GoFundMe for him. And it turned out the whole thing was fake. So they just like took the money. So we were like, we're going to be so upfront with this that like, for the first year, probably, I'd have to like go back and look. I stopped at a certain point. I tracked every penny of the money that came in. Like everything was traceable, separate bank account. I had to go to the bank and be like, hey, I want to open an account for my dog. And luckily the guy was like, oh, my parents live around the corner from you. Like, I know the dog you're talking about.
Super interesting. So like, when does it become when does it become like, okay, now the PR and the interest, starts to die down a little bit, and now I have life with this dog and what to do with it. Like, what was the ultimate decision with the dog? Like, what did you guys end up deciding to do?
Oh, no, I mean, we decided like that morning, like when we found her and put her in the crate downstairs, which was a big spacious crate. We got upstairs and my wife said, this is our dog, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that's, and I was like, no, it's someone's dog. It's someone's chipped dog. This is a very chipped dog, babe. I can tell. And yeah, no, and it was just like over there. And then once she like attached herself to me in the morning, because like also her and George were never going to meet. So we had a whole plan. I went downstairs, got George's leash, hooked him before, like in our bedroom, instead of him just having free reign in the house. Took him out, took her out the back. So like my wife's walking George, I've got Susie in the backyard, and we're like, they're never going to meet because this dog's chipped. And then they ran into each other coming back. We just timed it poorly, and they were like, they got along right away. And like when we brought her home after she got rid of the fleas and ticks, she's hobbling around. George has a bed on the first floor of the house. He sees her. He gets up and just like lets her take his bed and lays on the floor next to her. And it was just like this natural animal thing that was like, I mean, she's fitting in. Like it would have been very easy to mess it up for her. And she's been like the best dog in the world.
It's amazing.
That's awesome. So let's get into the book, Stray Dog Christmas. I mean, how much it is like Susie's story? How much is it you wrote a book? I mean, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so it happened December 14th, December 15th, I said I'd write a children's book of 2019. I never, on the 13th, if you told me you'd give me any odds in the world, that a zillion to one, that I would write a children's book, I wouldn't have taken the bet, because it just like, it was never on my radar. But as this was happening in the first 24 hours, we got up to like, I want to say like 15 grand. And I just said to my wife, I go, this is something, someone just adopted a dog because of us. We're getting these followers. People are giving us money. This is a real opportunity to like do something really cool that our daughter, as she's growing up, will experience this and see like her parents are really good people. So I go, here's what I'm going to do. I think we're going to get to like $25,000. I'm going to give away the money, the extra money, and I'll get other people to adopt, because some people would just say like, I don't want the money, just give it to someone else, like keep this going. I was like, I'm going to do a life a day for a year. Then I'm going to write a kid's book. Everyone thought the kid's book was insane. My father-in-law wrote Boardwalk Empire, the books that became the TV show.
Wow.
So I said to him at his house the next night on the 15th, I was like, yeah, I think I'm going to write a book. And he's like, okay. I was going to do it fully on my own. So I never asked for anything. I go through, I'm getting offers for stuff, like production company reaches out, like, hey, we make Hallmark movies, like we'll give you 15 grand. Like, nope, just do the whole year, just like posting Susie, giving away money, just trying to be positive, especially with like COVID going on. Like so many people were going nuts. So we're like, if we can just be this very positive thing. The world is crazy with politics. Imagine then, we were like, it's crazy then. Jesus. So I'm just like, we're going to do this really like cool, positive thing. And we do an adoption day for a year. We hit that last day. I do an Instagram Q&A. People were always commenting it should be a kid's book. Susie's audience is mostly women above the age of 30, families, like 85% of it. Mm-hmm. So they're like, kids book. So someone says it in the Q&A. I go, I'd love to. I think I need an agent. A couple people go, I'm an agent. One woman writes me a longer thing, goes, I'm not an agent. I used to work at, I forget what publishing house. I signed Diary of a Wimpy Kid. I did A-Rod's kids book. I know you're a Yankee fan. Mm-hmm. I run my own PR firm now. I don't want you to hire me. I've watched what you've done for a year. I want to make sure no one takes advantage of you. Are you open to a call? Go, yep. Get on with her. She goes, you need to write like a paragraph pitch. Like, I'll help you with it. So I write that. She sends it around to agents. I interview some agents. They all ask, like, what do you want to do? Like, what is this to you? Because they want to make sure you're not like, well, I'm about to retire off this book. Like, I am Dr. Seuss now. And I just go, I have 3 goals. 1, I want my daughter to be in a book. Books are forever. She'll always have that. 2, I want to be a New York Times bestselling author because my father-in-law worked really hard to do that. And I want to show him it's not that big of a deal. And 3, I want to throw out a first pitch at Yankee Stadium.
There you go.
I end up signing with the agent who the president of the agency said, what does 3 have to do with anything? And I said, I'm born and raised in the Bronx. I have a following because I talk about the Yankees. I'm JJ from the Bronx on social media. If I'm a New York Times bestselling author and you can't get me a Tuesday against the Royals, what are we even doing here? And she goes, you've got a weird brain, but that makes sense. And so I was like, all right, let's rock. And they tried to sell it on just the news clippings. Like, no one really wanted me to write a book. They're, they want to put your name on it, but like it's very, very formulaic is what everyone told me. So for a year, they tried to sell it with just the news clippings, couple nibbles, nothing too serious. We have my second daughter. I take a stab at writing this because I'm just like, this is about to die. So it's either like, I'm going to try it my way. And like, at least I tried instead of like, oh, in 10 years, like, oh, I coulda. So I took a shot. I did it, sent it to my agent. She helped me like work on it a little bit. She did a podcast about changing careers later in life. Like, she became an agent at 40. After a woman reaches out to her and goes, hey, I heard you on this podcast. I was on that podcast. I became an editor in my late 30s. If you ever have anything, I work at Source Books, specialize in kids' books, obviously, but we really specialize in either animal or holiday books. And my agent's like, boy, do I have something for you. And I was sitting right where I'm sitting now, sitting at my desk working. And I decided a day in, I believe it was July of 2022, early July. I had like a week off in between switching jobs. And I decided this wasn't going to happen. I was like, it's dead. It just didn't happen. I don't know that this lady has like reached out. And that afternoon, I'm driving to pick my kids up from daycare. My agent calls me at like 5 p.m. on the dot and just goes, I have an offer for you. And it's Source Books, made an offer that there was like negotiations and stuff that happened and ended up like signing with them, then spent like forever editing the book. Like hours and hours on Zooms, just doing like every word, because when you only have like 750 words,
right?
We had to cut 100 first. And then it's like, well, you said this 2 pages ago, making that match. Then it's, here's 15 styles of illustrations. Pick a couple that you think you could see the book in. Okay. You pick 3. Here's 5, artists in each of these like categories.
Wow. Okay.
Narrow it down again. Then you pick someone. Then there's the schedule work. And, and so they're figuring all that out. Then they start drawing it. And now then I'm done. Like, I'm hands off. All this work's happening. But like, here's the illustrations. Like, here's what you look like. Here's your wife. Here's the dog. And like critiquing those as a colorblind person, which is very funny to me. And so I'm going through all that. Then it's like, well, we've illustrated this. We need you to change like this phrase or this, whatever it may be. Then they ship it off to China, have it printed. And now we're here. So I'm where I thought I would be, but with like, it would have taken like 1 or 2 less years to get here in my mind.
I'm sorry, but the first thought I thought when you were saying like, as a colorblind person, that like, you look good, and then in the print, you're just like a cool black guy in the final print.
Yeah, that's what it is. I look like Malcolm Jamal Warner. No, so here's the thing: we got our first review, and so like the first like real, this is a place that reviews books, and like bookstores go to it for it, and they write this wonderful review. and the last sentence is the family presents white. And it's just like so awkward. Like, I get what they're trying to like do. Like, I get it's 2024 and all this stuff, but like, I don't know why that's needed in the review. And also, it's just so abrupt, just like a heartwarming story, and it's real, and da da da. The family presents white, like almost like, you know, hey, this drug may cause headaches. You may not be hungry. You may die.
You may present white after.
Yeah.
Oh man, Jack. I mean, that's just an amazing story. I mean, definitely tell everybody how we can start ordering the book. Or is the books out now? Are they coming out soon?
So when is this coming out compared to when we're recording it?
2 weeks. 2 weeks.
In 2 weeks. Okay. Yep. So it's after September 3rd. So the book is out, guys. You can get it. So yeah, you go to a straydogforchristmas.com. You can Google a stray dog for Christmas, and it'll show you all the places it's available. Really, one of the coolest things, they made like a movie trailer type thing about it, and at the end it said like available everywhere books are sold. And my response, like, they wanted feedback on the thing. I was like, wait, is that real? Like, I can say wherever books are sold, and they're just like, yeah, like you wrote a real book, Jack. There's a little bit of them being like, yes, Jack, you wrote a real book. Yes, this happened.
Wherever books are sold, and badslava.com.
Yes. Yeah. Hopefully I'm going to get that banner. I watch one day. I'm going to see if I can get it. And I'm just going to shoot you an email, Mike, and just be like, hey, here you go.
I would love it.
Here it is on Bad Slava. Yeah, no. So, you know, I'd appreciate it if people buy the book, especially if you're hearing this like right after September 3rd, because we need those first week sales. But if you could buy the book, if you could review it, if you like it. The reviews have been good. Barnes & Noble ships early. Like, once they get them, they just start shipping them. So we're recording this 2 weeks before the book comes out, and like people are already getting them, which is really cool. It's, you know, kind of a surreal thing. Like, just you know, have the opportunity to do it. And now, like, I get to go to schools. I'm going to like a bunch of school assemblies. And I always thought when people came in and like spoke at school, it was like kind of cool, or they were somewhat important. I know now they weren't, but these kids are going to think I'm cool. And that's what matters. Like, when I was growing up, me and KFC from Barstool, our sex ed teacher was this larger black woman, Mrs. Robinson, which cuckoo cuckoo, you know, I didn't get the joke at the time, but now I do. Her son is the actor Leon from Cool Runnings and the Madonna video and Oz. And so they would do 8th grade graduation in like a small, like, I grew up on an island. So like a small island, it's a big deal. And they would bring in like a guest speaker. And they brought in fucking Leon, and it was when Cool Runnings was out. I was like, this guy is fucking John Candy. And that's like when I got hooked on, like, people who speak at schools are so cool. But no, it's a cool experience. It's a cool opportunity to do it. Like, I live in Woolwich Township, New Jersey. I'm doing a thing with like the PTA here where they're like selling the books for a little bit of a markup, and I'm signing them all as a fundraiser for them. So it's a cool opportunity to give back. You don't make like $1 zillion off your first book when you're just like some guy off the street. So, you know, if I sell a lot of books, like, maybe, you know, I'll get a better offer for, you know, follow-up books. But for now, like, I'm just really like trying to enjoy it. Like, I'm not going to be able to retire on this. So if I get some cool experiences, I'll take that.
So Jack, let me ask you before you go, in your wildest dreams and before all this, how was the Jack prior to this and now the Jack after? Like, how much has this changed you as a person?
I don't know that it's changed me as much as it's kind of let different parts of my life connect. So like, I grew up on this island, City Island, on like the edge of the Bronx. So it's 1.5 miles, half a mile, 4,000 white people in the corner of the Bronx who all know each other's business. And so like you end up doing community things there. And then like I was in a frat. And so like you got to do community service or you can't go to the parties. So like just kind of like did it there. And then when my friend John died, it really like, you know, he's 22 years old. So like that's crushing to a community. That's crushing to a whole group of friends who like all just graduated college, like nothing but so much great stuff in front of him. And just undiagnosed heart condition, went to sleep, didn't wake up. No drugs, nothing like weird, just undiagnosed heart condition. And, you know, some people, it destroyed them for a long time. I immediately went, you know, was with my friend's dad and said, like, we're going to do something with this. Ask people in lieu of flowers, because you always do like in lieu of flowers, you know, do some charity, like, hold on, we've got something coming. And so it was August 18th. So just 3 days ago from when we're recording this. And I said, listen, Mark, who's my friend's dad, I go, I'm going to give you through the holidays. January, I'm sending you a list of like things that we can do. And so I started a scholarship fund. And like, so my college friends like didn't really know much about that, but like I fund a scholarship at Fordham University and one at Greenwich High School that are need-based and sponsor 2 Little League teams a year. And then I would do a big fundraiser there at one of the yacht clubs. And I would send out in like February a Facebook invite just to like save the date kind of thing. And then as it got closer in like July, I'd confirm with people for head count. 3 years in a row, I had to erase somebody because they overdosed and died from February to when we're doing it. So I started sponsoring Narcan programs and using the platform to like get people to, you know, learn how to use Narcan and actually like show up to the opportunities to learn this because they weren't. And I've had, you know, I know of 2 times when it's been used and like saved a life. And so just like having that little bit, you know, and other opioid things, funded a rehab of a outpatient rehab's rec room. So like new pool table, all this stuff, place at Jacoby Hospital where people from City Island were going. And if they have this good rec room, they don't leave the building to go out and get in trouble. So like, I've always just been about, if you get the opportunity to do it, like I love making dick jokes and cursing and all that fun stuff. But if you get the opportunity to make a difference, like take it. And so like when this happened, it was just like, it's just the biggest opportunity so far. So I don't know that it changed it, but it did like I was never Jack Jokinen on Twitter. So like I've got, you know, 30,000 followers as JJ. JJ was a character at Barstool. Jack Jokinen has a career in technology and a LinkedIn, and they don't mesh. But this kind of like brought it all together. And then in like opportunities like this, talking about like what I've done in John's name. And, you know, I'm involved politically, locally here, running for office in November. So like, I just think like if you can do, it makes the world a better place. And if like the people who can do, it helps the people who can't, and they're less likely to be resentful, commit crimes, things like that.
That's beautiful. My final question to you was, how was that first pitch? Did you get to the plate?
Oh, I didn't get the first pitch yet.
Not yet.
I got to get. We did reach out. So it's so funny because Source Books is a great publisher for, especially for like kids books. In November and December, they dominate the New York Times bestseller list. So I'm very hopeful at the opportunity. We did reach out to the Yankees. So, you know, they have their way that they go about things and like how they book media and stuff like that. And I am just like, hey, well, all that stuff that happened 4 years ago, I did all that myself. So like I have all those contacts. I know the Barstool guys. I know Jared Freed. I know John Jastrzemski from The Ringer. So I'm supplementing like all the stuff that they're doing with this like whole other like arm of, you know, trying to like promote this because I want that first pitch. Like that is the dream. When I did my like food series Stadium Meets, I threw out the first pitch at single A and double A for the Yankees. 2020, I was supposed to do Scranton. Like we had it all set up. And then I had, you know, COVID happens. That doesn't happen. I have a kid. I don't make those videos anymore. So like, this is my other try at getting that.
You're going to get it.
It'll just be the fucking coolest thing. I have a pair of sneakers.
Yep.
Saved for that. I have all white Air Force Ones. The sole says Bronx. I've had them for a couple of years, sitting in my closet, have never been out of the box. They're for that day.
That's awesome.
Beautiful.
Jack.
Oh, and also Susie's named after Susan Waldman of the Yankees radio announcer.
Wow.
So I realized I forgot that part. So being a big Yankee fan, I'm doing interviews, all the press and the initial thing. And I keep saying, she's named after Susan Waldman. They're like, where'd you pick Susie? I'm like, oh, Susan Waldman. If you didn't know, Philadelphia. She is, in the Radio Hall of Fame, first female, like play-by-play in Major League Baseball. Great thing for like little girls to look up to as I'm trying to get my daughters into baseball. So she's not on Twitter. So she had Lindsay Adler DM me and say like, hey, Susan heard about this. She wants your email. And now, like, some days I wake up and I just have an email that just says Susan Waldman and just like, hey, how's Susie doing? Like, I just sent her a copy of the book. So like, it has been cool in that way too, that like someone within the organization like knows about it. I feel like that can probably help as well.
Oh, definitely. 100%. 100%. It's going to happen. I mean, as long as you don't have your 50 Cent moment or Baba Booey moment.
No, I've thought about this a lot. Like, so I did the first pitches in like 2017, 18, 16, 17, then 20 was going to be AAA. I had missed some time. In 2021, I had rotator cuff surgery. Like my wife has pointed out, like, you're going to have to find someone to play catch with. And I was like, oh, trust me, I know. And I told her I was like, here's what's going on. The book's coming out. Season's going to end. No chance for this year. I'm on the ballot for township committee. I win in November. Now, at least I'm a name where in the spring, I get the opportunity to throw the first pitch. It's not as weird when I reach out to the baseball coach at the high school and go, hey, will one kid on your team play catch with me? Because like, here's what's going on. It's a little less weird when it comes from a .gov email.
And make sure you have the dog with you to make it less
Yeah.
Jack, we really appreciate your time. Good luck with the book. We'll promote it on the podcast. Good luck with your election. I would say good luck to the Yankees, but I have to pray for my team right now. But
I do know we're wrapping. I just want to say like one last thing. I really admire you guys since you guys invited me on. Like I saw your press thing. And so I was like, wait, they had Psycho Sid. Like what a weird like kind of interview. So I went through a couple of your recent interviews like before this just to like get the vibe of the show kind of thing. Yeah, I wanted to give you guys the respect of, being a little prepared to tell stories and stuff. So I'm figuring out that I had to tell stories. So I'm going through and I'm like, where the fuck did they get this guy? Where did they get this person? How'd they get this person? So you know what? Let me look for the Sid one. Like 15 minutes before we started. You guys start that episode in 2019 saying at that point, you go, people are wondering like, how the fuck do we get these guys? And I was like, I was just doing that 5 years later. So like, your audience.
we do.
So credit to you guys.
And that was you might also be like, after that interview, you might be like, what the hell did Psycho Sid say during that interview? Yeah.
I didn't even get through like the whole thing. It was just like, you guys were like, oh, you wrestled in WrestleMania. And he's like, I feed Honduran homeless children who were missing a leg every day. Like he went straight on to like 30 cents a day feeds a family.
Yeah. And he was out there. He was in our Lenny Dykstra category where we don't say much and we just let them talk and just let them
I was doing a lot of talking early in this and I worried. I was like, fuck, am I just going off? But like, I kept figuring out like, here's a place where I could stop. And I'm like, you know what? I'll blow through the meat of this with a couple of jokes thrown in. Then we can get to the back and forth.
Believe me when I say, and I'm not blowing smoke up your ass. All you brought up was entertaining, conversation wise, and all that. We've had a few where it's like, oh crap. How the hell am I going to stop this person? And it just goes down the hill.
You're also living Mike's dream, not the childhood author thing, not the getting successful, not the Barstool thing, but like a random dog showing up in his house once a morning. That is like Mike's.
I woke up that day and I was living every 26-year-old girl's dream. Like I was just like, there are girls who are devastated that One Tree Hill is over, who are just leaving their door a little cracked tonight.
Jack, thank you so much for your time. Good luck with everything, and we'll keep promoting the book, and hopefully we can bring you back one day.
Yeah, I appreciate it, guys. Reach out anytime. This was fun.
All right, Mike. The whole time during this interview, I was wondering how jealous you were of this man's story.
Just like waking up and having an extra dog in my house.
Just like a dog showing up.
Every time I wake up, 1, 2, 3, I'm going back to bed.
That's a good it's a good scenario to see when you would break. You know, it starts with 3 dogs and just keeps growing. What number dog would you just be like, I'm done with this? Like, I hate dogs. You know, like where would it be? Around the 10?
Like you just see me like leaving my front door open, just putting Alpo on the front porch. I don't know what happened, honey.
It's a miracle.
Ooh, it's a deer. We got that too.
Yeah, but what a fascinating story. I think it's really interesting too, like how it happened to a guy who was kind of in the entertainment world too, and he was smart enough to kind of focus it and make it like a national thing and do a lot of really good things with it. So it's pretty cool. So, Mike, what do you got?
Well, Scott, I found out about this insanely awesome brewery in Georgia. So let me preface my Labor Day weekend, if you will. As we were talking about doggies, I decided we were going to go on a road trip, the wife and me and the 3 dogs.
Okay.
Up to we drove up to our favorite coffee shop, and we tried to start off by giving them the CBD treats, because the last time I gave it to them, I took them on a 2-hour drive. Everything was great and whatever.
Yeah, man, let's go driving. We need more of that CBD, man.
Yeah, I guess I might be a drug pusher because it did affect my dogs. It's like one of those weird things. It's like, you want more? So we did an hour trip, and Callie's doing her barking thing, and like she does it where like Vader will go in the front with her, and then she doesn't like it, so she'll go in the back, so Vader will follow her to the back. So I literally, for like 60 miles, I got 2 dogs running back and forth while Leia flops on my lap the entire time.
Oh, that's probably pretty safe.
Yeah. There have been some occasions where like Izzy knows. I go, and she's like, she just grabbed, which dog? Give it to me.
You know, you were making fun of that lady with the trumpet or whatever in her car. This is way worse. You got 3 animals running around, jumping on your lap.
And speaking of that, stay tuned in another week, and we might be playing that game again.
Okay.
Just to let you have a heads up. So we did our coffee shop and whatever, and it was still early in the day, and I'm like, you know what? Let's find a dog park.
Now, before you go forward, what is the life like with 3 dogs, or the time like with 3 dogs in a coffee shop? Like, do they actually sit and let you drink your coffee, or is it like you're running around like crazy?
It depends on the day. Now, they have a little pet shop in the city of Ball Ground where we get our coffee, and they have a tiny like fenced in area for the dogs. So in that case, that day was, we put the 3 dogs in the park. Izzy stayed in the park with them. I went to get the coffees. So
Gotcha. So it's a grab and go kind of situation.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Generally, if it's like I'm sitting down inside, I won't do the 3 dogs. I'll leave them home.
Yeah, because I've taken my dog to, a couple places that allow dogs, and it's a great idea, but sometimes it's like more of a nightmare to go with the dogs.
Yeah, but they did go into the brewery, but we'll stay tuned for that right there. So we went to the dog park. It was very nice, very hot though, so we couldn't stay long. And they had like a fake grass astroturf thing there, where like literally the people are. By the way, you might want to make sure, because sometimes the temperature gets so much it burns the dog's paws in this park right here. So could not stay that long. But not to end the day, I said, "Oh, honey, there's a brewery 2 miles from here." And as you know, I love getting my numbers of breweries. This one was like number 125 in Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I never heard of this place before. It's called Freedom Brew and Shine in Cumming, Georgia.
Okay.
And in case you're wondering, it is spelled not the Coming way. It is literally spelled the other way.
Nice.
I don't know when that occurred, but so be it. No. Drive down 2 miles. I pull into the parking lot. I'm getting like mini golf course / boardwalk arcade vibes looking at the place.
Okay, like
So,
crappy shirts and
yeah, I did. So it keeps on saying signs of like brewers in the back, but I'm like, all right, this is where the directions took me. I'm walking in and all. Immediately, it's boardwalk arcade games everywhere. They got the guy who's giving out the baseballs to hit the cats to get 3 to get the big prize. There's like some kind of like bungee thing on the right hand side. So off the bat, I'm like, I don't.
Did they have the one where you hit that thing and the frog fly?
Yep.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, the brewery's in the back. Let me find it. And all. By the way, the wife's in the car with the dog. She's like, if you find food, let me know, and I'll decide if I come in or not.
Okay.
So I'm like, all right, let me go to this section of the place and all. And I start seeing like tackle and fishing poles.
Nice.
So it went from a boardwalk kind of arcade to a Bass Pro Shop. Yeah.
Perfect.
I'm like, okay, this is still not beer. Let me find my beer here. So I skew off, and now they're selling guns. Not shooting arcade guns, like literally guns.
Is this heaven? Guns, bait, and carnival games? What more would you even need?
Yeah, and then I'm like, oh, okay, that's weird. And there's literally a shooting range inside of the gallery, inside of the brewery in this place.
Oh.
I'm started thinking to myself, what the hell's going on? So I keep moving forward, and I pass the deer heads on the wall. I pass the people throwing axes, and then I finally actually found the brewery in the back of this place.
Okay.
So, like, before I open the door, I'm like, this is probably some dude bathtub beer. Like, they'll have like 2 beers or whatever, and they'll quote unquote brewery, whatever. I open it up, and this thing is freaking nice as hell. Like, huge. They have a separate axe throwing for this brewery versus the arcade / Bass Pro Shop / shooting gallery axe throwing thing here.
Of course.
And they got TVs everywhere. I'm like, oh, dang. Like, well, like you said, I think I stepped in heaven here. So I'm like, well, let me see. They have food and all. And it's like, they got prime barbecue in here. So I sent a picture to the wife, and she's like, okay, I'm going to come in and we'll eat. So I'm like, all right, it took me a while to find this brewery, so I'm going to go back to the front to get to the wife.
Yeah.
Like, she actually found the brewery right away, and I guess I didn't see her on the path that I went. So she's like calling me, and she's doing the stress, where are you? You told me you would be here kind of things, whatever, where we're getting in an argument. I'm like, I'm by the fishing lines and the guns. I will be there in a minute. I get in there, and then she starts getting worried because the dogs are in the car. Now the AC's running and all that fun stuff. I'm not worried about it, but she gets so worried about it. I have to run back outside and circle around the place to get the car back to where the brewery is. And then I'm like, all right, doggies, stay right there. We're gonna eat and whatever, get back. Wife calls, oh, the brewery allows dogs in, so bring all 3 dogs into the brewery. So I'm one-arming 3 dogs when I'm just trying to get like a beer to check in a beer for my untapped. And then we just we're just enjoying the day. And like the whole thing, I'm like, this is like a hillbilly dream. And like, they're like, oh yeah. And we got karaoke and we on these nights and we got trivia these nights and we got NFL tickets. So you can watch any NFL game you want. I'm like, they're an hour and a half away from my home. And I'm like, this might be my new home right here. And I was just loving it. And I sent you a picture earlier. They have an actual sign in the brewery that says, for your own, something to the effect of your safety.
For your safety, zero tolerance, shoot before consuming alcohol.
Yes. So somebody had to create a sign because clearly somebody went to the brewery and it's like, no, I'm good, and went out to the shooting range.
Of course. How do you drop off a man at a place where he can play carnival games, go fishing, shoot a gun, and drink beer and not somehow cross those paths?
Yeah, when you create this place, you really needed a list to say, this is the order you do it. Do not deviate from the plan here.
See, but I kind of like the opposite plan. Start at the brewery and work your way out to the carnival games. Becomes a lot more fun.
That way, when you get, I mean, I guess if you go to the carnival, you really want to omit that shooting if you're that drunk right there. Unless you can say, honestly, Your Honor, after 4 beers, how was I supposed to know that wasn't the froggy I was shooting at?
Not only that, that's how the carnies get you, right? You're a couple beers in, all of a sudden you're $100 on the frog launching thing.
Yeah. What? You don't want to get a nice doll for your lady there? You don't want something for the doggies? Come on now.
Your lady don't want this huge teddy bear? You know?
That actually happened once, like when I started dating Izzy, we went to what's that park in Brooklyn? Coney Island. We were there and like we were just walking to get to the ride, and like a carny was like in my face and shooting basketball. What, your girl's not good enough for the rides? What are you doing? And I'm like I almost punched the guy. That's how like in my face he was. But literally, I've had 2 beers there, and I'm like, oh my God, this is the most amazing place I've ever been in my life for so many reasons.
Who needs Disney ever again when you could just go to that place? It's everything you ever need.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. It's like, oh yeah, on Tuesdays Mickey Mouse shows up. We don't know why. We don't invite him, but this is heaven. He just shows up.
That's fantastic. What's the name of the place again for people listening?
It is Freedom Brew and Shine in Cumming, Georgia. And like to add to the list also, like after I checked in my beer, it's like, oh, they had their own badge and on tap. So I accidentally got an extra badge today after going through everything. I'm like, there is no faults to this place whatsoever.
Well, I'm a little jealous. I'm not going to lie. I'm a little jealous. I'll have to tell you about my Labor Day weekend next week because it is time for us to wrap this up. Mike, I'm going to ask you what to promote, but I'm thinking that may have been it, or do you have a double promotion here?
I'll do a double promotion. I mean, after you do the thing I tell you, go to Freedom Brew and Shine and Cumming and shoot things and drink and axe throw and all that fun stuff. But I'm going to promote the limited theatrical release of The Zombie Wedding, the first movie from the Weekly World News. On September 13th, the movie will release in LA, Chicago, Atlanta, Houston, Denver, and the Cutting Room in New York City. The movie will be available on video on demand, and it's the romantic horror comedy written by our former guest, Greg DeLisandro, which also stars in the movie people like Sherry O'Terry, Seth Gilliam, AJ Nadeau, also formerly from the podcast, Mickey Dolenz, amongst others. Check out The Zombie Wedding out there, and then go to Franklin Brew and Shine and drink and shoot things.
Yeah, man. So I got 2 things to get to here. One promotion, okay, and that is the return of the Verbal Shenanigans comedy show to my home at Tap House 15 in Jefferson, New Jersey.
It's been baby.
It's been a little bit over a year since we did a show there because of some issues with their parking lot. The state was coming in and building sidewalks and really limited the amount of cars they could have there. And then they went through another thing with a bridge being shut down where people couldn't even get to the restaurant. But we are finally back on October 10th with the hilarious Aaron Berg, one of the funniest comedians out there. Also with Peter Ravello, my boy, who's been getting spots at the Comedy the Comedy Cellar recently in the last couple of weeks. My buddy Ryan Patrick and myself at $59 for a 3-course meal and a show. You cannot beat it. We are very, very excited to be back. So that is Tap House 15 in Jefferson, New Jersey. Now, before I go, I would be remiss to not mention a loss in our lore and in wrestling fans' lore. We lost Psycho Sid just this week, who was a guest on the show a couple years back. And it's funny because that was one of those interviews that not even 100% sure how I got it. Some guy randomly, like, I messaged with, and he all of a sudden he's like, yeah, Sid's available at this time. And I was like, I think we have Psycho Sid tonight. And like, we ended up calling him, and like, he was in the realm of like an Al Snow that we had on, a Lenny Dykstra, not as crazy, but we didn't ask many questions. Sid definitely gave us like close to an hour, and he talked and seemed like a pretty down to earth guy. I just have one quick Psycho Sid story. When I was in like early middle school, me and my buddy Alex used to play with wrestling figures, still probably way past the acceptable age to play with wrestling figures. Yeah. But we would throw like our own little mini pay-per-views, quote unquote. We were big losers. And the excitement was like getting a new figure and like surprising each other with the figure, like, and bringing them over. And I remember running one day to Kmart, and I purchased Psycho Sid, and didn't tell Alex about it. My buddy Alex, not my wife. I'll never tell her about this.
Well, Scott, she's calling you. Why don't you tell her?
Yeah. And I remember I like busted out Psycho Sid. He was like, "Oh my God." And we like made him like powerbomb people through all these fake cardboard things we made. And like, he was our champion for a long time in 6th grade. So came full circle, got to interview him. Unfortunately, we won't be able to interview him again, but rest in peace, Sid Udy.
Yep. Episode 231 for anybody interested in watching the episode.
Yep. So with that, I don't think we have that many people we've lost from the pod, like that we've interviewed in the pod.
We had Gifted Gab. We had Igor Volkanovsky.
Volkavinsky. Yeah.
Yep. He was like the world's tallest, the tallest person in the United States. I know Barbara Joe Waymeyer passed away, but like I didn't even look it up until like years later. So those are the three. And Bobby Rush still kicking.
I was just going to say, I literally just typed into Google Bobby Rush at the young age of 90 years old. Also one of my favorite guests in the catalog, if you will. The guy was hilarious. But with that, it's time to go. We will hopefully be back on track here with our regular schedule. We got some things coming up. Other than that, guys, keep subscribing, keep listening, keep sharing. Life is funny. Laugh at it. Keep the wind at your back.
And remember, when you find Heaven's Brewery, do the shooting, then the beer, like the sign says.